the really exciting thing, if Scotland is going to go for growth and internationalism, is, but this has implications for jobs. The designer of an app can find that if they go worldwide, overnight, they've made millions of pounds worth of money from their front room. That's the new kind of businesses that are emerging. Now, what are the policy implications? What are the economic implications? What we've actually got is we are still working from the evidence from what, because bear in mind, we were working with people as they were going through the system, not just down in England, but up in Scotland as well. The biggest issue was they actually wanted to meet other like-minded people. They wanted to work with people who understood what it was like. Out of curiosity, anybody here ever started their own business? Anybody here ever used the business gateway system? And? Thank you, I'll take that as right, fine. And it's fine for some. So what we're now moving to is, what I would like to suggest, so that we can fit Alan's 10 minutes, is and get some comments and discussion going. There is a whole new breed of businesses out there. We found people, we called them accidental entrepreneurs, because if truth be told, they didn't really want to start a business. Now, what is interesting in Scotland is the departure of people 40 plus from existing organisations is quiet. In England, it's a big thing. More and more people are leaving schools in the 40 plus, 50 plus. More and more people are leaving from the Scottish Executive, and so it goes on. They're going out, some of them with good payoffs, and wondering what to do next. They are going to become economically inactive, or they might become active. You could end up with a batch of people starting businesses. What we do know is we still work in a framework more suited to post-industrial decline of the 70s, where the definition of a growth business is the number of people you take on, not the number of the amount of money you make. That is completely redundant and pointless. It's counterintuitive. It goes against the grain of where the new businesses are coming from. People with ideas, wanting to capitalize on it and wanting to pick up the schools. There is a lot of talk now about education and determined to succeed, which in its day was good. But it's not creating new businesses, because enterprise learning is practical, and you do it by doing things. One of the things that could actually be quite interesting, where I'll just conclude by saying, what I'm suggesting is, if you work for a college, if you work for a university, if you work for any institution, start asking the question, are you thinking and acting like an entrepreneur? Or are you thinking and acting like an employee? Or have you been given permission to start thinking and acting like entrepreneurs in waiting? Unless we get a major shift in thinking within our institutions, we will not get the economic benefits of an entrepreneurial society. To kind of firm that up, the evidence from all the stuff that's happened, and this was 10 years worth of what we tracked people at their attitude as they started, their insecurities to the end and where they started. Fascinating mood sheets with about 600 people taking part. But what came out more than anything else was the sense of frustration that actions which are now being taken to cut budgets are having an anti-enterprise effect because they have been taken to cut the budget. A good example is Glasgow City Council's ramming as much traffic at parking spaces as it can without really thinking through how that's going to impact on new businesses and small businesses. Not far away from me, Hillhead Primary School, built in 1820 something or other, I think it was, is closed, and there's a stunning new building. What is going to happen to that building? And that is why I think we should start consider enterprise proofing, is what's going to happen with that building? Well, one says, oh, it's great, prime development opportunity, sell it off to the developers, housing. Well, that's a short-term solution. But what's a more interesting thing is that building is superbly equipped for cutting, just a bit of paint to turn it into enterprise units. Because there's a shed load of people in the West End of Glasgow that are no longer working in their offices and could start a business there. Why is that so good? Because it's a community. Why is that also so good? Because people are talking to each other. Does it require the £10 million for Business Gateway? No. You can start to use that money in different ways. So really, what's come out of all of this, and I will leave you this, is now is the time to start enterprise-proofing everything we do in Scotland with one simple question. Will this be good for entrepreneurs? Will this help people start businesses and make money? Not, as the Committee on Report on Enterprise and Structure Scotland did in tedious detail, go into the customer relationship management system, the client this, which was all about them and nothing about the individual. So, on that happy note, what's the future for Scotland? Well, there's lots of people out there that want to do it. The drive, the determination's there. Don't crush it by getting in the way. Oh, and actually, a final thing. A friend of mine said, internationalism, Scotland, of course. Just make sure it's not the internationalism of North Korea, with everything controlled. That's it, folks. Thanks very much.
Very stimulating presentation. I may even place an order for one of these two. Thanks so much, Iain. That was absolutely superb. Very fine start to the day. Questions for Iain? Observations? Contributions? Yes, okay, look at it. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. You painted this vision of a sort of entrepreneur-driven society. I just wondered if there were any existing examples that we might look to elsewhere in the world.
Why?
Well, I'm asking.
Oh, no, I mean, that's a really interesting point. The answer to that is look to yourself first. We do not need to look elsewhere. Scotland led the way with the business birth rate inquiry. What, 20 years ago? At least. Fantastic piece of research. Really good. It went kind of iffy. But the mechanisms are that the areas, well, you look at Silicon Valley. You look at what Barack Obama said in his inauguration speech. We pick ourselves up, we dust ourselves down, and we start all over again. And that was the very phrase that was used by somebody this morning on the Kay Adams show as they were talking about their own business. I've been really fortunate. Huge number of, we never actually invite people to go to things. We say, have you ever thought about doing this? And I've never been anywhere. We did it in Banff-and-Buchan, which was interesting because we had a guest visitor who happened to be the local MP. And people just came along. There's huge potential out there. You know it. You'll see it. We're actually very good at what we do. We just don't talk to each other enough about it.
Laurie Russell from the Wise Group. Alex Salmon said recently in his opening speech, I can't remember the exact words, but it was basically Scotland's economic future when we do revitalise the economy will include everybody. In other words, the people on the 6 estates you talked about at the beginning. Iain, to what extent do you think an entrepreneurial world and along the lines you've talked about can tackle some of the social issues that Scotland's got?
I think the answer is it can't. I worked did work down up in the far north, never did anything in Glasgow, but worked in the most deprived areas of Blackpool, Bradford, chunks of Leeds. One of the biggest problems, there is huge potential there because people wanted to change their lives. And the best example of that was somebody who actually said, we finished up the event and somebody from an enterprise trust said, what are they doing here? Well, why shouldn't they? He said, I know they're getting thousands of pounds worth of benefits. What are they wanting to start a business for? So I told the couple, and she said, I'll tell you why we want to do it, because I'm fed up being looked down on by everybody else. I want to change my life. Now, if all you ever know is people in what you're exactly talking about, these rings of estates with high unemployment, it's seriously hard work. Because you're drawing from your own knowledge and not from a wider knowledge. The real thing is not bussing in, but bussing out. It's all part of all of this. It can do it. But one of the things we do know is the Local Enterprise Growth Initiative that Gordon Brown started, which was aimed at the most deprived areas in England, didn't work latterly because they started hitting targets. And they turned it into a worklessness programme and not an enterprise programme. When it was running as an enterprise programme, it was doing well. But then they said, oh no, we want people off this, and it changed. So that's, again, this kind of policy drift that really got in the way. It has the potential, but starting a business is about starting a business and making money, and in return, it may solve some of the social problems. But only until we've got more people. I'd love to see the entrepreneur, I don't know if they do it, I'd love to see the Entrepreneurial Exchange actually doing a regular visit and talking about their stuff and organising thousands of entrepreneurs talking about that and getting people to do something. Sorry.
I think a lot of people who are on benefit are living entrepreneurial lives. They may be doing it in the black economy or the grey economy, but they're living entrepreneurial lives. And one of the things we've not managed to think about or talk about adequately is the cultural change there, in a sense. People who are in prison are entrepreneurial. They just get caught. And if you think about what it's like to run something in the black economy, it's entrepreneurial. Now, that's a group of people that we're not bringing. Up to a point, Lord
Copper, up to a point, because you're not paying your taxes and you're not doing other things you're doing. It's an interesting topic.
And businessmen all pay their taxes.
Absolutely. And MPs keep their expenses clean.
Hi, Iain.
Hi.
Nice to see you again after many years. Jackie Waring, I'm Managing Director of my own company. I like what you're saying about, I think, some of the models that we've had, economic development models and support models, and the focusing on high growth only, I think just does not lend itself to the way that many women setting up businesses tend not to think about themselves as entrepreneurs, but are every bit as entrepreneurial. And I'm quite interested in what you've seen in all the work that you've been doing there. And
it's a language thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the real nub of all of this. The changes are very simple. They are very straightforward. It's a language thing. We know that if you start something and you learn to be enterprising by doing something, not by being taught it. I mean, I think it's unfortunate that the Hunter Centre, which started out really interestingly and well, has become another academic institution, focusing in on research. It's about letting people have a shot at doing something. And that's not happening. And it's also about other entrepreneurs helping them. We have a state of play in Scotland where the public sector, and in England and in Wales and chunks of Ireland as well, the public sector has completely displaced the private sector and the voluntary and self-help sector. It's gone down the structural route. And that's again, so that one of the things that then happens is you end up with women's groups saying, what are the government going to do about this? No, guys, go and do it for yourselves and develop it that way. Through social media, through Facebook, through Twitter, through anything, you can really start to change these things. We must move away from the obsession with policy and structure and institutions. And actually start, that's why I said, ask a different question. What can we do that will make it easier?